Yeah. Do you find yourself accepting roles after roles and have difficulty saying no even though the roles make you suffer? Do you find yourself constantly wanting to do things so that people can accept you or like you? Do you find yourself walking with this cloud that keeps telling you that you're not likable, that you're not beautiful, that you're not worthy? Do you find yourself in places where you constantly need to work hard and put in the work even though you need rest, but you cannot take the rest because you're a perfectionist and an overachiever? Well, guess what? It could be trauma, baby. And Mark, I said could be. Hi, welcome to the Wholesome Show. My name is Faith, and I am not a psychologist nor a therapist. I am just passionate about creating mental awareness and discussing life topics. So, but before we start, if the word subscribe on your screen is still in red, honey, why do you want red flags in your life? Click that button. Thank you. If you're new here, you might want to check my previous episodes because we have been discussing kids' mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we started from the root. Where does it all begin? And we've been looking at factors that may affect the kids' mental health. If you're not new here, you might already know that today we were supposed to talk about how to combat those effects, but I thought it wise that we should look at how those words and actions manifest themselves in the kids when they are adults. So in short, we could say that how childhood trauma manifests itself in adults. Get it? If you don't get it, don't forget about it. I'm here to explain. So this episode is called Yes. Let us start by first defining what trauma is. If I could define trauma on my own terms, I'd say it's something that happened to you that wasn't supposed to happen to you, or something that was supposed to happen to you but didn't happen to you. What do I mean? Something that happened to you but wasn't supposed to happen to you. For example, if you were sexually abused as a young person, that was something that wasn't supposed to happen to you but it happened to you, and it left behind marks either mentally or physically. When I say something that didn't happen to you but was supposed to happen to you, for example, if you grew up around emotionally unavailable parents, that was something that didn't happen to you. You didn't get emotional availability from your parents, but that was supposed to happen to you, and that could have affected your psychology. In like a simple definition, you'd say that trauma is something that happened to you that gave you an emotional, physical, or mental disturbance somehow. So just so you know, not everyone really gets trauma. For example, you could be in an accident, for example, a car accident with 5 people, and only maybe 3 might get trauma. You know, people react to things differently. But today we are looking at how childhood trauma manifests itself when we become adults. And we have several ways. I'll list them first and then we'll explain them later. So before we start explaining them, let's first get a picture of how exactly does your words as a parent or caregiver come to impact the kids' mental health in future, or how they perceive relationships with others and with themselves. So these parts, by parts I mean these words and actions, are registered into the mind of the kid and sometimes go into the subconscious mind. And they actually, as they grow up, it becomes part of them. And because it is part of them, we might actually not notice that it is the effect of words and actions, or otherwise known as trauma. So what happens is that, for example, if you tell a kid constantly that they are stupid, they carry that with them. And what happens is that you might find that one way is that these burdens become a part of them. They get integrated into the system and it becomes almost like a normal thing. They're always telling themselves, I am not enough. You know, I am not beautiful, when they grow up, and you wonder who told them such words. Have you ever heard someone say that the things your mind tells you is something that your abuser told you in the past? And so one way I've said is that these parts become integrated into our system, but other parts only come to the top of the surface when they are triggered. For example, if you're rejected by, for example, your partner, then you carry around this cloud of shame, but those are still parts from your childhood, but they were just waiting for something to trigger them so that they can resurface. Yeah, so that's what actually happens. So we'll start discussing these parts, and we'll start by people pleasing. Hello, people pleasers. It is almost self-explanatory, people pleasing. But let me explain. If you find yourself in constant positions where, not positions, you find yourself constantly trying to do things in order to prove yourself or to find acceptance amongst people, or you just do these things wishing that people could praise you, then you're people pleasing, honey. And people pleasing is bad for your mental health because, well, you end up taking more roles that you can handle. For example, at your workplaces, at home, you're always being praised for being the one who does the most work, but truth be told, your mental is suffering, and you just find it difficult to say no because you don't know what people will say. You're worried about what people will say if you don't do this, if you don't do that. So you end up just accepting everything until one time it just bombards on you. And I was there because last year is when my mental health took a toll on me, and I noticed that this was one of the reasons. 2, low self-worth or low esteem. This especially comes to people who have been verbally abused, or even physically abused, or sexually abused, so, and bullied and body shamed. So if you're bullied or body shamed growing up, or you used to constantly receive verbal abuse when in jinga, those kind of things, then they grow up in your mind and they get integrated into your system, and you find that every time, for example, any slight inconvenience, you have these thoughts that you're not enough, you have these thoughts that you're not beautiful, you have these thoughts that people maybe do not like you. So the next thing is attachment styles. Maybe you have come across this term, or maybe not. It's not a topic I'll dwell in too much because I'm still trying to understand attachment styles. But I know 3. I know avoidant attachment style, anxious attachment style, and secure attachment style. And your attachment style might actually be as a result of how your relationship with your primary caregivers were. So I've said I'll not discuss about this. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to read, and it's like I can't get away around what my attachment style really is. Is it avoidant or is it avoidant or anxious? I took a test and it told me that I'm fear avoidant, but when I look at the characteristics again, I get confused. So it's something you might want to research because it affects how you as a person interact with other people, yani your relationship with others. So it's something you might want to research. If I get to understand, I'll come back and explain it to you. The other thing I'm going to be looking at is perfectionism and overachievers. Perfectionism and overachieving might actually be childhood trauma manifesting itself in you as an adult. Why do you feel the need to constantly be doing work so that you can feel like you are a person? We as human beings, I believe, do not need to do anything to be humans. We are humans. We just came to this earth as humans. So anything you take up, the roles you take up, hizo cheo ambazo unazichukua ukiwa mtu mkubwa, zinaongezeka tu. Wewe mwenyewe binafsi tu peke yako hivyo umetosha kwa binadamu. But why do some people feel like they need to be working constantly even if they are tired? We've had people suffering from, these workaholics, or even being hospitalized because they take too much work because they don't know when to stop. They don't know how to take rest. And actually that could be trauma. Maybe you grew up trying to prove yourself so that you can, get acceptance, and you grew up like that, and that becomes part of your system. The other thing I want to look at is problems or difficulty expressing your needs or communicating your needs. And you might have heard this statement that people who like to isolate themselves when they are faced with a difficulty, the people for I need space, might actually have grown up dealing with a lot by themselves. They were not provided a safe environment for them to communicate their needs. They had to really deal with a lot by themselves, and that manifests itself in the relationships they form. And any slight inconvenience, they want to just take a break and deal with this themselves and just go through it by themselves. That could be how their childhood trauma affected them or manifested itself as they are as adults. Yeah. So other ways that childhood trauma might manifest itself to you as an adult is anxiety issues, panic attacks, depression, physical symptoms. That's why you feel you hear people who have chronic pain and they do not know where it is coming from, and they go to hospital and they're tested and nothing shows. That could be trauma. Maybe I'm saying maybe. So in case of things like that, that's where trauma-informed therapist comes in, or a somatic therapist. So thank you for watching. This is the end of today's episode. I hope this was an exciting episode. I made this with so much love. And see you next time. Make sure you subscribe, and you'd really do me a big favor if you shared. It's not good to learn only by yourself. This is something that is needed by everyone. So if you found this useful, please share. Thank you in advance. Bye.